On, you're all set.
You have a question already? Sam Briggs. Sam Briggs. I'm from Tonawanda Second Nation, what we call it territory. My second name is educator, which means he helps all of us. One of the things that we're going to do is we're talking about the history of lacrosse. One of the things it starts with is this picture here, this rendering. This is done by my niece, Natasha Santiago. It's part of the creation story. It shows the twins, Flint and Sapling. And in the story, it talks about Sapling created all the good things, and then Flint tried to create the things that would destroy it.
They can't hear you back.
Should be able.
Sorry about that.
No problem. But when we talk about the creation story, this is one of the things that we talk about, is how everything became to be within our people, the Haudenosaunee. One of the things they talk about is the twins, and how the twins came, and the Sky Mothers came down through the hole in the sky, and then landed on the back of the Canadian geese. They brought her down, set her on the turtle. Then she had a daughter. She was pregnant when she came through the hole, and then she had a daughter, and her daughter gave birth to 7 twins. And through the story, the good twin came through the regular way, the bad twin came through her armpit. So she ended up dying. So that's kind of the short, but when they talk about this, is using that balance between, some people say good and evil. We don't believe in evil, but it's just the contrary of why what was done up here and what's done under the earth. So when we look at that, we talk about Flint is the guardian. He takes care of everything that's under the earth, and then Sapling takes care of everything that's above the earth. When you see the sticks that they're using in there, you can come up and look at this afterwards. And my niece painted this, and my cousin framed it and stuff. Last October, I had a house fire. Everything completely burned around it except for that picture. It's the way it was when I took it off the wall today. So, metal burned. It just literally melted, but it never touched it. When you look at the sticks that they use in there, showing the webbing and stuff and how the sticks were made. I have one here. I have 2 of these. One belongs to my nephew, but this one was actually used in the lacrosse games in the last Olympics. So if you look at that, and you look at that webbing in here, that webbing, it has 5 strings, and that 5 strings is said that represents, the 5 nations of the Haudenosaunee: Seneca, the Mohawk, Cayuga, the Onondaga, and the Oneida. So when we use the stick, and these ones were originally played, they used a wooden ball. And so when they were playing what we call the creators game, in the original games, they would play in sometimes a mile-long field. Sometimes it was through the woods. I talked to Matt, and at the reenactment, we're going to try to get enough guys to actually play an old-style lacrosse game here. So, but when you look at that and you see how that stick is and how they develop, this is another old stick. This one is mostly over 200 years old. This one came from a museum and then it's given to me. We took the gut material and everything off of it that was there, and then went through ceremony. Mitchell Brothers up in Akwesasne, they took and they redid it for me. And then they brought it. And when Richard brought it back, it happened to be when we had our Great Law Recital at Tonawanda. So the day this got used was on the 4th of played in those big fields. We played with a couple hundred natives playing with our wooden sticks, our moccasins, and our shorts. There was no plastic. There was no of the aluminum. But these sticks, these are created, and they come from hickory. The hickory trees are split, and then they're with the bark on, and then there are a lot of times they try to get them where they're quartered, and then they rough them out, and then they'll steam them and bend them in that as that original piece. So then they'll wire it and then let it dry. And once it dries for, sometimes up to 6 months, then they'll start breaking it down. This is actually a stick that I started here this last year. So it's one that I'm actually making. And it shows, you can see how the top and the holes and everything are drilled in it. This one here, I heat treated to do just a little bit different. But when they're playing high school lacrosse and they're playing with their aluminum sticks, we like to see that because we can break a lot of their sticks real easy. And they can hit me with an aluminum stick, but they get a real experience when we hit them with a hickory stick. This has a lot of memory to it, and it leaves a lot of welts. But the way these are designed is designed where we have to learn how to cradle. When we're working with this, it's a lot of wrist action. And we're working that ball, and as it sits in there, we're running and we're carrying this at the same time. And so when we're playing, and you've got one like this, you've got less than half the size. So then when you take that ball, you put it in that one, you've got a lot less space. Learning how to throw these, I've watched guys that were supposed to be professional lacrosse players and then hand them a wooden stick, and they look like kindergartners. Some of the guys and stuff, when they learn, we make small lacrosse sticks that we put in with cradle boards, and when our sons are born. When we die, if we're a lacrosse player, there's a little lacrosse stick put in our, it goes to the grave with us. So from cradle to grave, we are lacrosse players. Lacrosse started off as what we call the creators game. In the first games, there was no score. It was played for the birds against the animals, and it was played, to appease the creator. But it was also played as a medicine game. We use it to, for healing. Women do not handle any of the wooden sticks. These are done with specific teachings and why we do that, why they're made, and how they're made. So when these are split out and the amount of work that goes into it, but when we're playing for the strength of the women and children. We have a number of different times that we play, and it used to be there was no organized lacrosse until 1868. That was the first Montreal team in Canada, and then from there on it became organized. But when you look at this stick, when in 1630, when the Jesuits and stuff were here, they looked at this stick and they sent a letter back to the church and said that these people would be real easy to convert because they play a game that's called lacrosse. You ever looked at the staffs that the church carries? It has the crook on the top and then the webbing and the mesh, sometimes different, I guess we call them crown symbols and stuff in the middle. But that's where the name lacrosse came from. When we're working through and we look at a lot of what we do, we talk about Dewanté, which is the Seneca word for lacrosse, which means bumping hips. So when we're playing, that's what we're doing. Is we have we play box lacrosse on the reservation, on the territory and stuff, which is full contact. some of the people that know lacrosse players. Anybody who knows who Jim Brown is, football player. A friend of mine who was a Vietnam veteran who passed this last year gave me this stick, and this was his stick that he used when he was in Syracuse. They played a game. Jim broke one of his sticks when they were at a tournament, and he let Jim use this stick. He gave his story and stuff behind it. But I carry this stick with me all the time. I don't use it much, but anytime I travel, it's with me. When I go out walking, you know, I've got this stick with me, just because of the history that's behind it. When you look at the different styles and designs of the sticks, like I said, you know, this was a smaller style bowling stick. I don't know who the maker is of this one. Okay, this one here, this is an Elfie Jock. Elfie Jock is from Aquasasi. Well, he's from Onondaga. There's a video out called The Stick Maker. This was one of the sticks that he made. I've had this for quite a few years. It's been worn enough that it's actually got a bend in it. So when we're playing, you know, we're actually holding this, and that's how we stop the balls. When we're playing box lacrosse, we're taking these balls upwards to 130, 35 miles an hour straight on. Yes.
What are they made from?
The original ones were made out of wood. They were made from a root ball. Then they were made out of leather with a harder inside. They actually, kind of like a golf ball, they would take a piece of wood and they would wrap it with yarn and then sew leather around it. So it was still hard. Well, now it's compressed. These, they say these are 138 denier, which is a box lacrosse ball, which is harder than is the denier number is the density of it. So these are harder than what the field lacrosse balls are. This is the newer stick that I use. This was made by Ken Jonathan from Tonawanda. This was one of the first goalie sticks that he made. So I carry this one and my Elfie Jock with me anytime I'm playing. We play colleges, we play different box lacrosse tournaments. We enjoy going and playing against the college guys, and they get kind of frustrated when we're 50 to 80 years old and we're beating them. But you know, he's telling us, as you know, the Creator gave us this game. Lacrosse comes from the Haudenosaunee, the people of the Longhouse. People say the Iroquois. Well, no, it's not the Iroquois. It's the people of the Longhouse or the Haudenosaunee. So when we talk about that, I know they have the Iroquois Hill up here, and we actually talked about that we're going to rename that Haudenosaunee Hill. So that's one of the things that we're doing. But when you look at these sticks, then we go back to original one, and again, I said, you see how they're made. You know, and it's got, you see this, got a piece of leather there. And that piece of leather, a lot of times they would tie a bundle on that. Or they would tie an eagle feather on that. Sometimes if they were playing a medicine game for healing for a family, I've listened to people talk, they would get a shirt, and they would take a shirt and they would make the ball out of the shirt of whoever they're playing for. And sometimes they would take scrap pieces and they would tie them to that string. That way everybody was playing. When we teach about lacrosse, we teach that anytime we're playing here on earth, there's always somebody handling the same stick in the heavens, in the sky. So we never play alone. We don't use, we're always trying to do it in a good way. I speak at a lot of the colleges and universities, and I tell them, you know, you see a lot of the darkness they had, you know, a couple of issues with like there are a lot lacrosse team made a national history because they had drunken blues parties and people got in trouble. But we teach that anytime you're playing lacrosse, you're playing for the strength of the people. So when we're using these and we're following through, that's who we are. We're playing for everyone. Right.
When you said that this particular, the smaller club, was used in the Last of the Mohicans, and I was reminded of those scenes in the Last Mohicans, it almost looks like the game of lacrosse at that point in time looked more like a field hockey game with a lot of hip checking and going on and
Right.
stuff. Because of the size, isn't that more how that gets played with the smaller club?
It's because of the size, but if you look at that one, then you look at this one. You see the taper on
Yes.
here? It's easier to scoop a ball.
And handle it as you're running
Right.
with that.
So when you're going, you're holding it like this, and you've got more of a whip. With this one, I mean, you've got to cradle it a lot more because you've only got an inch.
Which is why, perhaps it's because of the people playing in the movie.
Right.
They look more like they were scooping up the
Right.
ground and flicking it down the field.
And when you're using this, it's got that little notch on the end of your hand, but it's got notches here, so that's what you're holding. And so, if you're trying to run between people, you want to be able to have control over that. So you're controlling that.
So you can actually control that like modern lacrosse, because I remember in the 70s, lacrosse was a game played up in Maine a lot.
Right.
And they didn't have the wooden sticks yet. They were using the wood ones at that point in time.
Right.
These look exactly like what they're using.
Right, and so with a lot of our wooden sticks, one of the things that you see is, you'll see the designs and stuff in them. You see how, they're designed, even our goalie sticks, when you're carrying that ball, you'll see guys using their hand going like that. And they're building a pocket in there, they're building a seat. So even if it's tight, it'll still sit in there. And you can do the same thing on this. This one here is all leather and rawhide. These two both have leather and rawhide on them. And this one is got a nylon web, and the other one's got a nylon web. Yes?
Could you tell me who the 5 strings represent again?
They represent the Haudenosaunee, which is the Seneca, the Mohawk, the Cayuga, the Onondaga, and the Oneida.
What's the last one?
Oneida.
Thank you.
When you come in here, it's like one of the first things when I was in here back in the summertime is, I look at this. It kind of makes me proud because I'm the seventh generation of that man right there. And so when I stand here doing a program and carrying some of these older sticks that have been used through history, I protect these with my life. And when we're playing and we're using these, they become, we treat them as their life. When we're working with them or when we're playing, we don't mistreat them. It's like, I always say, well, it's like guys with their fancy golf clubs. They've got them all polished, they got little matching, none of the rest of their clothes match, but all the little covers on their golf club match. So when you look at that and you see how these sticks were designed and how they were used, they came from a live tree. A tree was sacrificed for that to become a lacrosse stick. So when we have a stick like this, we cut an 8-foot tree. We can, a lot of times we try to get 4 sticks out of one tree. So when we're cutting these trees, they're only 8 to 10 inches in diameter. So we try to split them, that way we get, the cleanest. Now if we're going to do a goalie stick, they're going to be very close at 8 foot. Most of the time they try to cut them about 10. Because your ends are going to check and they're going to split.
Do they have a different name for them before a lacrosse stick? Did that stick have its own name before the judge would name it lacrosse?
Yeah, we have our own names and stuff for them. And a lot of times, you know, when you see these, and if you look, every one of these sticks has a signature or has a name on it, either written in English, but it also has our Seneca names on it, or a Mohawk name. This one here has 3 names on it, and it's also signed by Ken Jonathan, or Neck as we call him, and he's one of our chiefs. So when we look at these sticks, like I said, you know, we treat them just like they're alive. If you ever watched a lacrosse game and somebody breaks a stick, if you broke a wooden stick, the women would all stand up and then they would call it, because that means that somebody is transitioning, you know, into heaven. Yes.
When you get a stick made, is there like some kind of a dedication for the stick, you know, where it's now employed for use?
Sometimes they do. When I make sticks, like for children, for newborns, I burn tobacco for them, and I do a special prayer and stuff for them. And when I take those and I give them to the parents for that, like for my grandson, I say, Okanonu Watson, which is thanking my grandparents. So when we thank our grandparents, we're thanking everyone that's been here before us. So you don't say, well, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents. We just say, Okanonu Watson, it covers all of them. Yes.
How do you say his name?
Gayasuta?
Parson.
Gayasuta.
Baptist.
Yes. And when we're doing programs like this, we also carry strings. This is a wampum string that was given to me. It was a friendship string. And I carry these with me because the elder that gave this to me gave it to me to use when I'm doing a program. And it helps you remember. And if there's something that we made a mistake on or something that we forgot, this reminds us that, you know, that's what was supposed to be said at that time. And you'll find even some of the lacrosse sticks, guys will have, you know, on the walls with strings on there. They'll have feathers tied on there. They'll put different beads on there. It's like the guys going out to jousting and stuff. And, you know, they will get the handkerchief from the queen or the first maiden and tie it. You know, you'll see guys that have, you know, pieces of cloth from like maybe their grandkids, you know, different things. But especially when we're playing for a medicine game. If you're playing for a friendship game, and like, say somebody lost their brother, generally somebody else steps in to take that position to help them. And so they could call for a medicine game, so when they make the ball, they will take a shirt from each one of them to incorporate into that ball.
What happens if a woman does that? Is it disposed of?
No, but it's, it tells us that we're supposed to take time to pray. That, you know, it should have been done. It's like when we're playing lacrosse in the box, women don't enter in the box. If somebody gets hurt and they're bleeding, they have to leave the box. You know, leave the field and stuff. They don't keep playing until bleeding and stuff is done. But when you go through, and there's a lot of different teachings, but as the ball, as the stick, as a tree, you know, a lot of times burning tobacco, because, you know, they're cutting that tree down, the tree's the life. You know, and we try to explain to people that we're related to everything on this earth, and that's proven by science. Yes, sir.
Do you have a ceremony before the game? Two, do you have referees? And three, are the rules the same as American lacrosse?
Yes. And a lot of times in like traditional games, they would use the Thanksgiving address. And they would do an opening and a closing for each. And a lot of times on the territories, in some of the bigger games, they always do that. We try to teach young players and stuff, you know, to learn, you know, where lacrosse comes from. You know, that, you know, you just don't go out there and I see young kids and stuff, and they just throw their sticks in the corner. we hang all our sticks up. You know, we have places for them, so they're hanging up, so they're cared for, and they're always hung up with the head up. You know, and that's how they're cared for. You have a wooden stick, and say somebody's taken, you know, a year to make that stick, you want it to last. So there's ways of taking care of the leather on it. Even the nylon and stuff is supposed to be taken care of. When we put, you see like this one has leather here, and you know, and that's for grip and stuff. I can play left-handed or right-handed. I can throw left-handed or right-handed. I'm not the best at all of them. That's why I've been a goalie for 50 years. But I've credited myself that, you know, I have scored. Yes.
You're not thinking more of a they were substituting for combat.
You say that one more time?
They're substituting the game for actual combat.
Right.
And
Hey.
I can't, like I said, I'm trying to remember when I read it, but it tells about that.
When you would have, you know, nations warring against each other. You know, say Brian's got one group, and then, you know, Matt's got another group to get up there, and they can't come eye to eye. So you say, okay, you guys are going to play a lacrosse game. The first one is the 6, that's the winner. And so when they go out there, then it's all of Matt's guys and all of Brian's guys. It's not you pick the 5 best or let. Everybody has to play. Everybody has to touch that ball. Everybody has to be part of that. So they are making that decision. You know, they talk about the gauntlet. A lot of times, people that war upon somebody, they bring somebody back, and you know, instead of sacrificing the warrior, you know, he decides that he wants to run the gauntlet. You know, a lot of people, they use clubs, they use lacrosse sticks, and then he runs that, he makes it to the end, then he's accepted in. You know, sometimes it's not. I've heard of situations where somebody's going to be punished. Well, they send him to the box, so they go to the lacrosse box, and they got 5 minutes to run around. Well, you've got 35 guys throwing a hard ball at you. So if you get through that, and then, you know, but generally when they're playing, you know, was a lot of times in that to make a decision. Like we're saying in the beginning, the creator's game was played by the strength of both men on both sides, you know, to raise the positive energies and stuff to the creator. So that's why when we're playing these, we're using them as a medicine game. You know, what you said, we're playing for the strength of the women and children of our communities. One of the things, when you look at the different styles, people will say, well, you know, are your sticks made of different materials and stuff? Some of our professional teams, you know, they have, you know, offset heads and everything else with you know, their sticks. They play with aluminum shafts, titanium shafts. Some of them play with bamboo or wooden shafts. Replaceable heads on them. But these, you know, these are all one piece. So when we're playing, you know, we're using these. This is what we learn to do. You know, like a lot of times we're walking, you know, we'll be going back and forth. You know, we may spin them around. We may be walking, catching the ball, go into the sports store, pick up one of their lacrosse sticks and playing games in the house until we get yelled at. But that's one of the things that we try to teach, especially with the young people, is the respect of the game. That, you know, when you're coming and you're playing, you know, we talk about Jago, and Jago is like Nike. You're learning, you're playing it hard, but you're doing it in a good way. You know, you're doing it as you want to make your mother proud. And a lot of times people say, well, look, my father said, well, a lot of times we look at it as that sometimes a kid may say something different, disrespectful in front of their father that they would not say in front of their mother. And so when we look at it, and like I said, when we're handling these sticks, we handle them, just like they were a child, just like they were, something, because, it was a life, it was a tree. Yes?
Creation story with the lacrosse, is that universal with other tribes, some of it out west or down south?
In some, mostly it's in the east, down to, like, you take the Chickasaw, and they have stickball, but they play with 2 sticks. Cherokee play with 2 sticks. So they would have, 2 sticks like this, but the head would come down here, it was tighter, so they would grip the ball together with 2 sticks and then throw it.
But the overall creation story is universal.
Well, it's universal that we come from one supreme being. But as for like Christianity, they said, well, we believe, if God was human, God would have to be female because only females can give birth. So we look at these sticks as a child. And so that's why when we handle them and the things that we do, and like I said, you'll have people do different things to them, different decorations, and all of them, some of them might be superstitious, but some of them might be, a family trait. I've got a number of nephews and stuff that play professional lacrosse. When you go to these colleges, and there might be, say, 10,000, lacrosse players vying and trying to get into the professional lacrosse league, versus there may only be 200 natives. 90% of those natives will get there before, because this is how we were raised. And a lot of times, I know I've talked to some of my nephews, and they said that, it's hard being a native playing professional lacrosse or playing in colleges, because they'll literally send, a thug out just to hurt you, from some of the other teams. And that's what got, lacrosse, with a bad name, in some of the places and some of the things that we did. Jim Brown, he was one of the few that, that they played. Wayne Gretzky played lacrosse, and he says he nominated himself to go play in the hockey league because for him it was much safer. It was a less chance of getting beat up, even though they have fights and stuff. That when they played, a lot of times we listen to people. Well, I've seen groups that would forfeit a game instead of coming to the reservation. But we tell them, I says, you're picking up the sticks that Creator gave us. But when we play hard and we play fast. When I'm playing goalie, I don't have center pads. All the other goalies and stuff, they have center pads and extra things. Heck, I've been work hard over 50 years. But when we're playing the game, we're playing for the strength of the men, women, and children. Somebody's ailing or somebody, they have somebody that died and they're having problems with it. They can call for a lacrosse game. And then we're playing for the strength to lift them up, and especially if they've lost a parent or they lost a brother or sister. They would take that ball and they would call for us to play a lacrosse game to lift them up, because this is one of our medicine societies. This is why we protect this the way we do. You throw the ball in, whoever gets it first. We play in box lacrosse. We do have regular referees and everything. Then we have scorekeepers. We have rules. The first set of rules and stuff were actually made in 1886 in Montreal, when they actually set up a league. And then a year later, they actually took a team of Haudenosaunee and Canadians, and they went to Ireland. They went to a couple different countries and stuff to play. Lacrosse has been used in the Olympics. Field lacrosse has been played all over the place. But having universal, I guess, rules, that you would say. So, having those rules and having people that, that are going to use those. But at the same time, you can have somebody that's not a good referee, or one that wants to make stuff harder on other people, and not, just like baseball or football, they turn their head when somebody takes a shot at them. But that's when we talk about Jago. Do it right, do it hard. Yes.
You said you played college students
Yes.
and you beat them.
Yes.
How?
Outscored them.
Yeah, but what techniques do you use?
Well, one of the
what
things
things were
when we're playing box lacrosse, we play with a 4-foot net.
What?
We play with a 4-foot net. We don't play with a 7-foot net.
Oh, I see.
And so, one of the things I find with a lot of the field lacrosse guys, when they come down through there, they do all these fancy moves. They'll either hit me in the forehead, in the chin, or in the chest. I've played in. We've done a lot of different tricks and things. A couple of my nephews and stuff, people watching, see how they play and stuff, and they're scoring from, throwing from behind their back, under their legs, and people try to figure out how they're doing that. And, especially when you get a wooden stick, it's just like somebody playing pool. I mean, you can put enough English on that ball, and I've had it spin, watch that ball just go like that, literally go right around a person. So it's just like if you take and somebody that's a good pitcher, they can speed the ball up, slow the ball down. Yes.
I was going to ask if you could tell us a little bit about the modern Haudenosaunee professional team.
The modern Haudenosaunee professional team. Our modern team is considered one of the finest, and everybody that's on the team are Haudenosaunee enrolled, so they have to be blood. We had an instance here, 2016, I think it was, where we went to England, and Britain, they wouldn't let our players off because we traveled on Haudenosaunee passports. So they weren't going to let us off the plane, so they let them sit there on the plane for a couple of weeks, and still denied us. Then coming back in the United States, they had to fly to Canada because the United States wouldn't accept our passports. Even though 48 of the other 50 countries accepted, they didn't. So we just made it a little harder on England when they came to Onondaga to play at the World Championships. They put such a beating on them. But they showed, even some of the guys that showed up in the U.S. team didn't have their passports. You're traveling off, you're on the reservation. You're not in the United States, so they required them to have their passport. So they made these guys sit until guys from their team went and got their passports. They said, you expected us to have our passports to be there. And he said, where's your, we live here. I said, well, you don't live on the reservation. You need to have your passports. But they do that to us often. Places that we travel, and I keep my Haudenosaunee passports. I have a U.S. passport and I have a Canadian passport, but I use my Haudenosaunee passport. I've been to other countries, in New Zealand, and the guys are like passing around, they all want to see this, because there's not a lot of them. It's not like a country that has 10,000, you know, Haudenosaunee passports. Yes?
We heard a lecture a couple weeks ago, it was on Battlefield Detroit,
Uh-huh.
and they were talking about, I guess it was a lacrosse game that was played. It distracted.
To get into the fort?
Yes.
Yep.
I couldn't remember the photo.
Yep, that was done several times.
Oh, and other forts,
Yep.
which other ones?
Well, it was done at, I can't remember some of them. One of them was, Lamackinac. Yeah, Missionac, yeah. That was one of them.
I think it was tried at Fort Pitt.
Yeah, it was tried at Fort Pitt. And come from the other places and stuff, but it was, that was used, and that was part of, Pontiac's, that's part of his thinking. So, you looked at a lot of the things of how, military guys are gonna set up and they're gonna outthink these guys. Well, sometimes just the basic common sense will outsmart somebody that's trying to overthink the situation. Yes?
Whenever you're playing a non-native team, like you said about the net being different size, who determines which kind of net you use? Do you use your own?
No, if you were playing box lacrosse, you're basically playing with a 4-foot square net.
Okay.
If you look at field lacrosse, they've got just a 6-foot by 6-foot net.
So if you go to them to play, you use their, I'll say their standard, and when they come to you, you use your standard.
Well, if any place they're playing box lacrosse, whether they're playing at Syracuse or when we played at Ohio State or Philadelphia, they use a 4-foot net.
Okay.
If they're playing field lacrosse, they're using the bigger net. But, a lot of times we'll mess around and we'll be throwing 2 balls at one time. It's to see how many different things that you can do. Yes?
What's the difference between box lacrosse and field lacrosse?
Field lacrosse, you do a lot of running. Box lacrosse, you get a lot of beating. Box lacrosse is full contact. When you see how we're dressed as box lacrosse, we have full pads and stuff on because we're standing there taking those shots straight on. And
How big is the box?
what's that?
How big is the box?
Same size as, you guys can pass that around, but the same size as your box arena for hockey. The box arena or the hockey arena is actually governed and was designed after the lacrosse box. I got to play with Tim Horton when back in the early 70s, and his family and some of the other guys when they traveled. So seeing a lot of these guys, and like I said, Wayne Gretzky said, I'm going to go play lacrosse because I'm not going to take.
After throwing that ball, I don't know what I want to use it here.
Yep. But
Serious damage.
well, and the thing too is that we're watching that, and everybody does all these fancy moves. For them to throw, they have to move their shoulders. So I just watch I don't look at their head, I don't look at their legs, I just watch their shoulders. Because they're going to come this way, they have to back to throw, whether they're going backwards or forwards. Yes.
You were talking about the beating. I have a friend of mine, this was 25 years ago, he told me this. He played up in the reservation one time. He says, the worst physical beating he goes ever got in my life was playing up there.
Yep.
He goes, once we took the beating and we got the respect of the natives. If you took the beating and played hard, then you earned the respect. It's the only way you get it.
Yep, and there's a lot of guys that have come from the college leagues and gone into professional lacrosse. Probably 90% of them don't make it because they're used to running and they can't take the shots and stuff. you know, a full contact. You know, when they're getting checked, you know, it's like this. You know, they don't get boarded against like they do in hockey. And you've got something that's a piece of hickory that's solid, and you hit somebody, you put them into the wall, they're going to know that. But on average, if you're looking at that ball, when we're playing on box lacrosse, a lot of times that ball is traveling between 100 and 130 miles an hour.
How'd you do in Ohio State?
What's that?
How'd you do in Ohio State?
We never lost to them.
You lost that.
We never lost to them.
Just lost across. You lost.
They don't like it when we come there. Our oldest player is 82 years old.
Wow.
Our youngest players we have nobody under 50.
Wow.
And how old were the Ohio State players? What are they?
College players.
College players, yeah.
I mean, I'm almost 65 and I'm still, and I like when these guys try to check me, especially when I'm in goal. I come out of goal and check guys with my lacrosse stick, and they hate it.
Is it because you hit them? I mean, with the hockey stick?
Oh, no, I'll hit them with my lacrosse stick, but you know, if I'm going to hit them, I'm going to step into them so they're going to know I hit them.
And that's a full contact, is that what you
Yes.
call full contact?
Yeah, just like when you're playing hockey and stuff. And guys, you have the same rules. I mean, you can't hit them from the top of the shoulders up. But you can knock them down and get a good fist fight. You know, like I said, I've got a number of nephews and stuff that are playing professional lacrosse now, and they're considered some of the best. A number of them are in the Hall of Fame. So we learned everything. We're ready for the test. Yes.
So some people must get broken bones once in a while.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've had a broken jaw. Yeah, but I played with a broken jaw. I broke my right hand and switched to left hand to finish the game out. So, yes.
Do you know if the game was ever played here on the land?
Probably years ago it was, but hopefully this summer it will be.
Oh, really? With a reenactment?
Yeah, we're gonna play against Brian and Rob and Matt. They're gonna get.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, I retired after 23 years as a professional bullfighter rodeo. Yes.
So do you have certain players that are like defensive players all the time, or how's that work?
Generally, we have players that switch in and out. We do have, just like you do with hockey and stuff, you have forwards and that's the middies. And then like in field lacrosse, they have middies and people that can travel both sides and stuff. But usually we're just playing 5-on-5 at the goal. So it's, it's just general, using basic numbers. And then if you get penalized, and then, it's 4-on-5 or 5-on-4. So a lot of it depends on, but generally in the old style games, there might have been 100 guys playing, when we played in the 4th of July, that game, there was probably 100, 150 guys playing. Yes.
If you play a medicine game to help lift someone's spirits because someone passed away and all that, or to strengthen the community, what happens if you lose?
A lot of it depends on, they'll make bets, and then, so, like, say, one group loses, and they say, well, then they have to cook the ceremonial food for the other group. So, that, doing the cooking and doing, maybe splitting fire, but taking care of their fires food.
What happens to like a spirit, if one of somebody's spirit because someone passed away, does that person who lost a loved one feel dejected that your team didn't win?
Nope, because you're pulling for the strength of everyone. And they're lifting up, they're calling for that game, they're lifting up that game, is to lift, if they lift everyone else and got everybody happy around them, that's gonna help them be happy. It's like when we talk about our covenant chain and stuff, and then we're working with people that have disabilities, and they're supposed to be the weakest of our community. If we bring them into the center of the longhouse and we lift them up, that strengthens our whole community. So it's the same thing if we're playing like a medicine game and stuff, and how we play for everyone.
So even the victor plays for the person that's affected.
Right. Yeah, that's both sides coming together, and it's, when we talk about when we come together as one.
The game doesn't come to a national standard as we are used to seeing.
Well, everybody passes out, I guess. Now, when they set up a game, you know, they may draw sticks or something, and they reach into a bag and they drop. Say there's 6, you know, that's whoever gets the first to 5, or whoever gets the first to 10. You know, in a lot of the medicine games, you know, there's not a goal there. You know, they have 2 sticks with eagle feathers up, and it may be 8 foot apart. And so, but we may also be playing in our shorts and moccasins in 1.5 foot of snow and 10 below. But we're still playing for them. Yes?
How did you learn your craftsmanship?
I grew up with it.
Someone trained you or passed it down to your grandfather or someone who was skilled in that?
Yes, and it's what I did. I would work, I would study, and I would watch. A lot of times, you know, just sitting and watching somebody watch why they use a knife this way. You know, a lot of times I see guys and they're going and they're wood carvers. The first thing they do is they're pushing the knife away from you. Well, most of the time when you see natives and stuff that are carving wood, they're holding their knife in one place and they're pulling the wood against them. So it's not going to flip out there and, you know, hook you or somebody else. But learning a lot of these crafts and these things as, you know, as a child, you know, and then just keep perfecting them. And then when we get together with other stick makers and stuff, you know, we're always talking, you know, when do you do this or when do you do that? You know, I thought one guy said, well, you ought to straighten that stick out. I said, nope. I said, that stick is really good. Can't throw too good with it, but it's really good for that. You know, I don't have to move much when I'm in the goal. Okay, any more questions? Rob?
I'm here.
Yes, we'll get you shoes if you play.
No, that's what piqued my interest here, you know, I mean, I wasn't asleep or anything, but you know, this potential lacrosse game at the reenactment. My question is, are you going to bring some of your teammates from up north down to us,
Bring some
greenhorns down here at Bushy Run?
We may try to get some guys. That's kind of a hard time because there's a lot of things going on at that time of the
Okay.
mission.
Well, that could be a good thing
Yeah.
for us.
You know, every time when they come back down the hill, I always ask one of the kids who won. So if you have a cross game, then we could make win this year.
I don't think we're getting that.
But any last questions? Yes.
Just, if you want to share, what are some of the names of your nephews that play?
See,
The names of some of your nephews that play?
Larson, Sundown, he was playing for New York Riptide. Now he's playing up in Montreal. Then they've got nephew's playing for Buffalo Bandits, and he's been goal there. Boeuf, Abrams plays goal there. Jeremy and a couple of the other of the twins. But there's quite, I know we got quite a few different guys that are playing. Like I said, if we have 200 guys go